All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We gotta talk about it. Last night at the Goldsboro City Council Meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Brandy Matthews, for lack of a better term, stood on business as she called out the hypocrisy and the double standards of some of her fellow city council members. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory, but I'm also going to play you how Brandy Matthews so eloquently stated and pointed out the hypocrisy of some of the decisions that went forth last night in the meeting. Now, a little bit about the backstory. This is about street closures during special events downtown. Now, it all came about when a company, and I think that company's name is Small Batch, they're located downtown. So they wanted to close one of the streets off to have a little vendors event to invite vendors and, like an outside marketplace, right? Now, she brought this idea about 2 months ago, and they've been battling about it. Some of the people don't want the closures because they say it will hurt downtown businesses. Other people are fine with it because they think that that's going to bring more people to the downtown business. But evidently, the council, all 7 members of the council, agreed that they will not rule on any street closures until they have a set policy in place. Now, as of last night, April the 15th, there is no set policy set in place. However, certain members of the council moved and voted to close the streets off for the upcoming Center Street Jam. That's going to happen all throughout, I think, May, June, and maybe July. One day a week where people come out, they party, they drink beer, people sell and buy things. People are making money. So after they moved on this, and I'm going to play you some of the comments of the council members that shows their hypocrisy as well. But after they ruled on the closing of the streets for Center Street Jam, totally in opposition to what they agreed upon, then when another organization, which is a nonprofit organization that wanted to have a 5-mile K run or something like that, the council moved to table this decision. And what they mean by table is we're going to hold off on this decision until we have a policy in place. And Brandy Matthews, and I'm going to start from that point of it, but I'm going to go back. Listen at how Brandy Matthews calls out this hypocrisy after one of her fellow council members tried to justify them making the decision on one hand, but wanting to wait until we have a policy on the other. Then I'm going to elaborate further. Y'all just listen to how my sister breaks this down.
Council, any other comments or feedback?
Changing the rules in the middle of the game. We have.
If you didn't hear, she said, we keep changing the rules in the middle of the game. That's a quote that I am going to forever hold true. I love how she broke that down. Let's continue.
And even stuck to, we went from approving something based on what we think and what we feel. That's why we should not make decisions based on what we think and what we feel. We should base decisions off policy. So that way it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have to ask any of these questions. We wouldn't have to make any of these assumptions. We would take this checklist and say, does it check that? Does it check that? Does it check that? Approve it. Does it check that? Disapprove it. We're changing it. We're changing the rules again. We changed it on that first one that we disapproved. We changed it because what it says is, because we know it's a city, then we're going to go ahead and give them the pass through. Now let them people run. People been running downtown for as long long as I remember closing them streets. It may not be this particular organization. And then again, we can't punish people because a business owner decided to come downtown. That was a personal choice that they made. And I support it. And I don't think for a second, ain't no event gonna stop me from getting to the laughing hour or the ice storm when I want to get to it. And I do not think that people running for 2 hours is gonna stop us from going into our restaurants. We just gotta be consistent and pick a side. We just approved Center Street. Y'all have no reason to not approve this closure right here. You have no reason to not approve it other than personal preference. And that's not how we make decisions at the city. That's not what we're here for, to base it on how we feel personally. We need to base decisions on policy.
So, you see how my sister broke it down. She said we just approved the street closures for the city event, the quote-unquote city event, and I'm going to break that down as well. So why can't we approve the street closures for this 5K run? Now, the conversation began, of course, with Chief West bringing up the upcoming Center Street Jam and the normal street closures that it has. Now, none of the council members, I don't believe, are against closing the streets for that Center Jam. However, as Ms. Matthews pointed out, we said that we are not going to make any closures until we have a policy in place. And that is what we call standing on business. Now, because it is a quote-unquote, Center Jam is a quote-unquote city-sponsored event, and that's how a couple of council members tried to frame it. Well, this is not a for-profit event. This is a a city-sponsored event. However, we all know that the city has partnered, as Councilman White eloquently pointed out as well. City has partnered with for-profit and non-profit organizations to bring this event about. So Mr. White asked, well, who's asking for the city for the street closes? Is it the non-profit organization that the city works with, or is it the city? Now, the lawyer said, well, it's mostly the city. But the bottom line with this is council members are acting like this Center Street Jam, which brings revenue, that brings people out, they sell beer tokens, and I'm gonna let you hear her break that down. That is no different than the small batch company cutting off their street and bringing vendors in and selling things to make profit. People are going to make profit at the Center Street Jam. But I'm going to play you a little bit of the beginning. This is right after Chief West made the proposition.
That would disqualify our Center Street Jam series. So to me, it is a bit of a question before you make him. Sure, that's okay. Councilman.
So that's Mayor Gaylor.
Would disqualify our Center Street Jam series. So to me, it is a bit of I won't say a moot point, but it is a bit of an inconsequential stall if we wait on this one. And so I would ask council to approve item S, the Center Street Jam Concert Series temporary street closure. This time.
See, now that's Mayor Gayer. After Chief West presented the street closures for Center Street Jam, he's saying, well, I think, even though we don't have a policy, we should approve it because it's been going on for years. That doesn't matter. You guys said as a council that you were not going to approve any street closures until you had a policy in place. And so that's why I think, Mayor Pro Tem Matthews and Councilman Rod White see the hypocrisy, because this is a quote-unquote city event. And we're going to listen to Rodney White ask the correct questions.
Councilman White.
So it said both the downtown development commission and the downtown development department, right? Describe for me the difference between the two, and how do we know who's doing what?
So now he's pointing out a very good point. The Downtown Development Commission and the other group, one of them is the city and one of them is a nonprofit organization. But they are partnering together to put on this event, which means that somebody's going to make some money out of the deal, right? One hand washes the other. So he's pretty much saying that this is not just a city-sponsored event. And you're going to see, as Chris Boyette so eloquently let the cat out of the bag, oh, well, contracts have already been made and monies have already been allocated for this event to happen. So therefore, you see, it's not just about community and city event. This is about money also. So I'm going to skip a little bit to that. Hold on.
Okay, so city staff, Matt, you might be the better one to answer some of this. All right, go for it. Just so the difference.
And this is the lawyer trying to, or the city manager trying to
Do we have a downtown department?
use word salad to just say no. Well, you know, it's mostly the city. We just partner with them and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you can't piss on my back and tell me it's raining when I see it coming from your private parts. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me.
Public-private partnerships and help out where we can. So it's really about...
And right, if y'all can see this, Rodney just smiling at him like...
So who is asking for the street closed?
Well, that's mostly the downtown development because that's who's putting it on. But they've got...
You hear him say, well, that's mostly the downtown development.
Things like that. Mostly downtown, because I would say that it's more of a city event. It's been going on for a long time, Chief. I don't know.
It has. I don't know the exact number of years, but it's been several decades.
So right here...
Last thing is about street closing. And I know that the one that the Mr. Mayor is talking about is going for the small bags. They want the same as identical to have the streets. And there was some pushback about being a for-profit thing. And I just think that we need to be consistent.
So he's saying the small batch company wanted to close the streets, but there was pushback about them being a for-profit company. Don't we know that the city and whatever this organization is also for-profit? Let's not, you know, act like we are 7-year-olds now. Just because you're the city of Goldsboro doesn't mean that you're not going to make money off Center Street Jam. So I thank my brother for pointing that out.
And we also talked about the time, the length of time that I just think that
He said we need to be more consistent. Basically, he's saying y'all flip-flopping. First, you said this company can't close the roads, but when it comes to the Center Street Jam, oh yeah, you're not worried about downtown businesses. You're not worried about, you know, merchants and parking. You're not worried about none of that now. But when it comes to another person or another entity wanting to do it, then we see the hypocrisy. Now, here goes Chris Boyette, councilman number 2.
Obviously, a lot of this discussion has happened among us. Is there any other specific questions to direct to Chief so that he's not having to hold the podium down? Chief, if you'd like to be seated, we'll continue this discussion and we'll bring you back up for item. Thank you. So, with item S, all of the feedback received here is favorable, and I agree with most of it. They're trying to weigh it all, get a policy in place.
Let's skip to Chris Boyette.
Does anyone else?
Just to restate again what, and to Pro Tem's point, I stand by my comment stance and my position the whole time through as we navigate this process that I would not be in favor of approving any for-profit.
You hear what he said? Oh man, I messed around and he talking about I would not be in favor.
If you would.
That's a good.
The Arts and Entertainment Series and the Center Street Jams and
Bringing business downtown and
Hold on, that's Brandy responding. Hold on.
Hold the podium down.
So Chris Boyette talking about he would not be in favor
Discussion, then we'll bring you back up for item.
of any closing of for-profit
All of the feedback received here is
street closures.
be with
Like Center Street Jam is not a for-profit street closure. Everybody's making money.
even with that, does anyone reasonably foresee a policy where this kind of so I don't want to.
It doesn't matter. Now here go Mayor Gaylor once again playing the policy card. Does anyone foresee a policy that will prevent this from happening? That's not the question. The question is, do we already have a policy in place where we can't just say, okay, well, we're going to do this one, but we're not going to do that one. There's no policy in place. So according to you all guys, you shouldn't be ruling on a thing.
If you would.
That's a good question, Mayor. And I don't think any of us are going to deny this street closure for this event, right? The only issue that we have to consider and that we should consider is we even said ourselves that we would forego agreeing on street closures until we had something in place. I support the street closures. I support all of them because people are bringing business downtown and bringing people downtown that would otherwise not come. We saw the proof in some surveys that were taken just from that one event downtown. So we know it works. But this board has picked and choose what they're going to support based on a small personal criteria. So we should forego our personal interest in this. And I'm not saying interest in the actual event. I'm just saying it seems that we are using our own personal checklist for these events. We should have something solid in place moving forward. I don't think there's going to be a policy that is going to prohibit the Summer Street Jams. Not at all. But what I am fearful of is that we're just going to have a policy that eliminates the small batch. And those events that are like that, which is very similar on a very smaller scale as our Summer Street Jams. Vendor.
See, she made a great point. So we're going to have we don't think that there's going to be a policy to negate the street closures for Center Street Jams, but there will be a policy to prevent people like the small batch and everybody else from closing the street. So why not let's make this policy right now? Let's agree upon this and just not pick and choose today. Okay, well, we're going to do the Center Street Jam, but no, we're not going to rule on this company over here for closing the streets. That's not fair. And like she's about to point out,
that are going to be collecting money, food trucks that are going to be collecting money. We ourselves sell beer tokens and tickets, so I don't see what the difference is, just the location. So
once again, she's talking about for profit. They sell vendors. They got food trucks. They sell beer tokens and gifts. So it is for profit, the Center Street Jam. So that's how they tried to wordplay you where, well, no, this is a city event and that's a for-profit event. That is total horse crap, for lack of a better word. But let's go on.
So I just want us to consider, we said ourselves that we were not going to approve any street closures until we had a policy in place. I'm just asking us to make good on our word. Not that we're going to create something to eliminate it. Let's just make good on our word.
Word is bond, as they say, right? She said, we said that we are not going to rule on anything unless we have a policy in place. Now, I can't argue with that. I'm with her with 100% on that. Like, how can you say we're not going to rule on something then because quote unquote it's a city sponsored event? We're going to go ahead and move to close the streets and then we'll wait to make the policy. Nah, that's not what we're saying. As she said in the second part, we're making the rules up as we go along. And here's this other guy here.
Yes, sir. Councilman White, Councilman Boyette, and then is anyone else? Boyette?
Just to restate again and to Pro Tem's point, I stand by my comments and my position the whole time through as we navigate this process that I would not be in favor of approving any for-profit street closures until we get this policy in place.
He would not be in favor of approving any for-profit street closures until we get this policy in place. What did she just prove? That the Center Street Jam is a for-profit street closure. But let me go ahead and let him put his foot in his mouth a little bit.
As I said before, this is a city-sponsored event for the public good and is not even in the same wheelhouse in my mind as what the small batch was. So we're looking at apples and oranges in my mind. So I know that this council and the staff is in the process of putting together a policy so we can move forth with events such as small batch. Not to single that one out, but since that's the topic of discussion, so that the board and the staff is working as fast as possible to get a policy in place to be able to address that segment of requests. So again, this is a city-sponsored event, a public event for the public good, sort of like the Juneteenth that we heard earlier.
Now he tried to bring Juneteenth into. Don't bring us into that. Nah, don't. This ain't for the public good, because you're going to say in a minute, contracts have already been made, monies have already been allocated for this event to go on. So it ain't about the public good, Chris. It's about money. You're going to say it yourself.
Earlier and the road run that we'll hear after this. So I stand by my comments from the beginning, which is I'm not in favor of any more for-profit or street closures until we get that policy in place. However, this is different. And
this is different.
It's an apples and oranges.
Watch what my boy Rodney White say.
That's my comments.
He talking about this is different. It's apples and oranges. Now watch what my boy Rodney White smiling right now, because he see the play too.
Of course, I already made a motion.
Well, that motion died for a lack of seconds, so we'll revisit the motion. Is there, and to be fair, you could remake the motion. I just wanted to make sure that we had any discussion.
Yeah.
I thought the discussion cut the motion off.
I think,
All right,
because
Councilman
they
Weeks.
spoke already.
Councilman Weeks.
I guess my question is I don't see how it could be different than apple and oranges if you're selling and collecting money, you're selling and collecting money, regardless of who's
It's the city.
regardless of who's sponsoring it.
Like you said, I don't see any difference. If you're selling and collecting money, you're selling and collecting money, regardless of who sponsored it, whether it's the city or whether it's the small batch little store on the corner. Great point. You can't argue with that, Chris. Well, it's the city. The city is not an entity by itself. The city has people who have interest, vested interest, financial interest in what happens. And that's what we see here. It's not just the city. The city is not a ghost entity. The city is made up of people. So I like that. I like how my brother refuted that.
If you're selling and collecting money, it's the same thing. So it might be a grapefruit in the orange, but it ain't apples in it.
he said, look, if you selling and you collecting money, it's the same thing. Chris Boyette sitting up there looking like, Mr. White was speaking Spanish, right? If you selling and collecting money is the same thing. And my man said it may be grapefruit and oranges, but it ain't apples and oranges. But that's the play. We know that.
Well, I realize,
Sorry, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones.
And Hawata, she tried to make a valid point, but I do have to say that, you know, she mentioned, and I'm not going to play her comments, but I think she mentioned, well, going out to a stores event, you feel obligated to buy. But she said, you know, and then somebody refuted that and said, well, you don't have to buy. She was like, well, me personally, when I go out somewhere, I'm going to buy. So that basically means if you go to the Center Street Jam, you're going to buy. I went to a couple of those events and I didn't have any intentions on buying nothing. But when I got out there, and I just said, well, Dag, let me get something because it's out here. So let's not, once again, act like the Center Street Jam is just for everybody to come and have fun and kumbaya. No, it's to make money. It's for profit. So everybody can see the hypocrisy, I guess, but except these people who are saying it's not.
I was just going to say, I am for street closures if it is a city-sponsored event. I am totally against closing down the streets for a non-sponsored city event. We have brick-and-mortar stores downtown, and we are trying to encourage people to come downtown, shop in their shops, eat in their restaurants. They're paying leases, they're paying taxes, they're paying employees, they're paying water bills, and we are offering the same benefits for being downtown, but just for a small fee, when these other individuals are paying overhead. They're paying, the merchants are paying for taxes, they're paying all of those things. And so when we close the streets, it does take away from the brick and mortar merchants downtown. I know because I walked the streets some the other night too and spoke to some of the merchants who were discouraged because the people were not eating in their restaurants, but they were eating at the food trucks and those things. I think that
For one day is not going to make that much
I'm
difference.
just letting you know I'm totally against shutting down the streets.
She's totally against shutting down the streets,
city events.
except the Center Street Jam,
Somewhere
right?
where I am not prepared.
So now they go on and they vote.
Very honest with everyone in the room. That volume of people.
I'm just going to go ahead and
Right, there's
fast
been a motion
forward.
made, seconded. We're currently in the discussion period.
They done made a motion
Is there anybody
to
else?
pass the Center Street closing.
And then,
So this is gonna be the last thing, but I do want to say that I am in support of the Center Street Jams. I will be there this year, volunteering and attending, just as I did last year and the year before that. But I cannot, in good faith, vote to approve this street closure. So I do not want you to think, I do not support your efforts, because I do. But based on the word of this board and based on all the things that we have done and based on the disapproval of street closures without a policy, I cannot support approving a street closure without one either. So my vote is going to be no for tonight.
This sounds like
That's great. Like, so based on the disapproval, like they done disapproved so many street closures because they didn't have a policy. But then when it comes to this quote unquote city sponsored event, oh, forget not having a policy. Come on, we're gonna, this is a city event. This is different. That's why I couldn't be up there, because I be done threw my microphone. I be done threw all my papers off the desk. Like you can't piss on my back and tell me it's rain when it's yellow and it stink. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. But maybe I'm different.
clarity. So contracts and everything was already signed before we approved something.
Now that's Rodney's White, because before, I fast forward and when Chris Boyer said, yeah, we'll see, contracts and everything has already been made to get this event started. So we don't, and so here go Rodney White, like, wait a minute. Contracts and everything has been made before we voted? Yeah. It has. That's why we're gonna close these streets, regardless of what we said we won't gonna do.
I don't know.
Cause it's for profit.
That part of it, I can't speak to.
Now here go Mayor Gaylor. He don't know now.
An assumption is probably a safe assumption, knowing how large events work. But yeah, I can't speak to that.
Because Mayor, we're not approving the event. We're simply approving a street closure that we have the DGDC handles.
But I got a question about the DDGC and the nonprofit side.
All right,
And the reason I say that is because they got a law or Airbnb that they charge for that we don't see any of the revenue from.
Basically.
So I would like to know who are we putting the bill
Hey,
because we saying it's a
like they are on it.
the couple points that I think are important. The DGDC, the nonprofit arm, owns the building, pays the taxes on the building, does not charge the city any rent for the building, and has to cash flow the building. And so they cash flow the building with the Airbnb.
That
Again, they don't charge the city anything for it.
they don't charge them for anything that they do for the city. So it's like a trade-off.
basically. Yeah. So they making great points.
I know we've talked about this long enough, but there's sponsorship.
Oh, he said, I know that we talked about this long enough. Like you the daggone mayor, Chris Moore. Yeah, you ain't no mayor.
And that organization is what funds the bands that the contractors sign.
But anyway, okay, let's continue on because now, Chief, they done voted
Walnut Street
and moved to approve. After all that discussion, they moved to approve
Finish in the same area. The time
the,
requested for closure is 7 a.m. and
Center Street Jam, street closures.
And it's recommended that council approve the street closings of Center Street at Pine,
Now, Chief West is up there
Walnut, and Mulberry.
proposing
7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on
some
Saturday,
closures
2024.
You said
For-
from what time, from 7 a.m. till
7
11:30
a.m. until 11:30 a.m.
Are there any questions not amongst
The
yourselves,
run.
but specifically for Chief West?
Tell me again on Center Street, because we have restaurants serving breakfast downtown. So I just
See, now that's Beverly Weeks. Now they said that they were going to close certain parts of Center Street from 7 to 11. And if you heard it, she said, "What time did you say again?" And Chief said 7 and 11. Tell me, and she said, "Tell me again because we have restaurants serving breakfast from 7 to 11." Mainly, and I love her to death. I've been to her place. I've drunk coffee. I went to a Bible study there. But she has a restaurant there from 7 to 11 that serves breakfast and coffee and things like that. So now we have restaurants that are, she's concerned with so much of brick and mortar because she is a merchant. That's why my sister going to say, this is not personal to your business. You know what I'm saying? You gotta catch it.
From 7 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. on Saturday, May 18th, and it'll be Center Street at Pine Street, Spruce Street, Chestnut Street, Walnut Street, and Mulberry Street.
Are there any comments or questions for Chief West? All right, Chief, you can step down if you like, or not. If you're just feeling like you sat down, it's up to you. Okay. 5K for 5K temporary street closure. This would be on Saturday, May 18th. I would entertain. First of all, I'll leave it open for council conversation, and then I'll express my opinion. Council, any comments or questions on 5K for 5K? Okay. This one to me, but again, this is where we gotta have a policy. As opposed to
Now they got, here's the mayor. This one to me, this is again where we gotta have a policy. You didn't have to have a policy when you just moved the other one. Hypocrisy.
I believe that this impacts communities. But they're not having policy. With the other one, we had precedent. We had something that I believe we could.
The other one we have precedent, but still no policy. It's words like that, of course. And Gaylor's a lawyer, so he knows what precedence is, and he can speak that language, and but I see past all that.
Has this one, I realize the difficulty of what I'm about to say.
And I wish y'all could see. Check out the 407 mark. Mayor Tim Matthews just like this. I already see where this is going. They gonna shut these people down. I would.
It's Saturday, May 18th. I would entertain a motion to table this one until May 6th so that it can be.
See, now they want to table this one. That means we're not gonna vote on this one. Give us time to get a policy together. And that's when my sister gonna break out what I played earlier.
Assessed. But it still need to be assessed under the current policy, but at least under the proper guide. I don't want it to get rejected unnecessarily. I don't want it. I think that we will have a policy. There is that is all council. Motion has been made. Is there a second? Hearing none. Alright, let's discuss. What do we want to do with this one?
My concern is you have brick and mortar stores downtown. They serve breakfast. You're closing their streets. We already have our 2-hour parking. That's taking away their parking spaces. The customers cannot get to the restaurants to eat. And then
So now, once again, this is Councilwoman Beverly Weeks saying for this day, May 18th or whatever, from 7 to 11, she has all these concerns. We have brick and mortar stores downtown. They can't get served their breakfast. Customers can't get there to eat. We have no parking. But she's going to approve a street closure for 10 days throughout the summer for the entire street from those times. Because she knows that's going to bring more money to her establishment, irregardless of how they try to play it. But once again, that's hypocrisy. How could you be concerned about the brick and mortar stores for this one particular day, but you're not going to be concerned for the 10 days of Center Street Jam? You can't
take away those parking spaces in those areas for them. It's 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock, and 11 o'clock starts their rush for their lunch. We said that we're at 85% capacity with our parking.
Now she got all types of stats and everything.
Presentation that was given to us, and so that does not afford the brick and mortar stores much time to get ready for their breakfast or their lunch. Individuals coming in.
Council, any other comments or feedback?
Keep changing the rules in the middle of the
We keep changing the rules in the middle of the
game.
game.
We went from approving something based on what we think and what we feel. That's why we should not make decisions based on what we think and what we feel. We should base decisions off policy. So that way it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have to ask any of these questions. We wouldn't have to make any of these assumptions. We would take this checklist and say, does it check that? Does it check that? Does it check that? Approve it. Does it check that? Disapprove it. We're changing it. We're changing the rules again. We changed it on that first one that we disapproved. We changed it because what it says is, because we know it's a city, then we're going to go ahead and give them the pass through. Now let them people run. People been running downtown for as long as
No, let them people run. I'm with it.
Particular organization. And then again, we can't punish people because a business owner decided to come downtown. That was a personal choice that they made. And I support it. And I don't think for a second, ain't no event gonna stop me from getting to the Laughing Hour or the Ice Storm when I want to get to it.
Not at all.
I do not think that people running for 2 hours is gonna stop us from going into our restaurants. We just gotta be consistent and pick a side. We just approved Center Street. Y'all have no reason to not approve this closure.
No reason. And I'm gonna let y'all go cause this goes back and
how we make decisions at the city. That's not what we're here for. To base it on how we feel personally.
yeah.
We need to base decisions on policy.
Uh-oh.
We didn't have parking restrictions in place back then, and
We did.
also we have got more and more businesses opening for restaurant and for lunch hours. And again, those
Were
are
you
the
not
brick and mortar
concerned
shops
about
that are
those
paying
doing
downtown
the Center
fees
Street
and
Jam?
fees, overhead. They're paying workers' comp. We need to honor those businesses. We're trying to get more activity for these businesses downtown, And I do not think that we should deter that by taking away with the street closures. And I think it has to be on a per basis.
Based on what though? We don't have a criteria.
We have a queue going for comment.
Based on what? So basically, man, y'all see what's happening, man. Y'all heard it. Y'all go look at the meeting for yourself in its entirety. Y'all can pretty much tell how I already feel. Y'all leave your opinions and views in the comments. Once again, y'all know my number 919-587-7782. But what's most disturbing to me after all this, we have Chief Wild Wild West, because that's what it is in Goldsboro right now. Chief Wild Wild West up there talking about street closures when we have 4 possible deaths in 4 days related to possible substance abuse. We have a corruption that is running rampant. We have a homeless situation that is running rampant. We have violent crimes running rampant. Drugs all over the city. And Chief West is sitting there talking about some street clothes. You need to be doing some research about who got these bad substances floating around, my guy. And you sitting up there, and even not just him, we as a council, all these issues in the county, y'all spend nearly 2 hours talking about some street closures. But I get it. I understand everybody's point of view, but right is right and wrong is wrong. If you say, word is bond, we're not going to make any decisions on any street closures based off the disapproval of those whatever 2 or 3 that y'all already disapproved because y'all don't have a policy, then when this event comes up, you can't say, this is a city event. Nah, that's not what it is. You got to be consistent like, my sister said. So kudos to Mayor Pro Tim Matthews. Pray for her because, you know what I mean, she's up there, you know what I mean, she's standing on righteousness. Right? You don't do nothing. You don't say what you're going to do and then don't do it. That's the code of the script. What Scarface say? Only thing I have in this world is my word and I don't break them for nobody. This council has just showed that they are willing to break their word. And if they'll do it in something as small as this, then what else can we expect them to do it? And many said, the Center Street Jam is next month. They worked tirelessly. They spent 3 or 4 days straight. When that audit was coming out, they had meetings all day and all night, up to 2 and 3 in the morning, getting that business straight. It ain't no reason why y'all can't call an emergency meeting, just like my sister said, to get this policy in order so we can make these decisions without picking and choosing. But, man, it's a lot of layers to this. I know somebody put up a Facebook post and, it was, people were making their comments, but I just had to weigh in because somebody told me, watch the meeting. Sometimes I've been kind of busy lately, but watch the meeting. I watched it. I was like, okay, I got to, I got to go with what's right. And that what I feel is right. If you're gonna say, we're not gonna make a decision until we have a policy in place, then that policy or that decision should not have been made. But once again, I'm of a different breed, I guess, with different era. But we're going to see what happens with these and all matters city related. Y'all stay safe out there. Peace and blessings and love to all. I'm out.